I'm Drea.
I'm Meg.
I'm Tina.
And I'm Jess.
And this is Pardon My Stash. Welcome to Pardon My Stash, a podcast about knitting within the fiber arts and how awesome it is. Woo! Before we get into today's topic, let's check out what we're working on this week. Jess?
Well, I was working on the vest and then I got mad at the pattern. So now I am working on the wrap, which is between the dragon and his wrap. And it's a color work and I love it. And
That's so bright.
right? Isn't it awesome?
What is that blue?
This blue is Thunderwave.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Thunderwave from Critical Hit Dyes and Copper Dragon from Critical Hit Dyes. And they're both on Paladin, which is like, I haven't worked with a worsted weight yarn in forever, but it's not so bad. I did go down in needle size because working with 9s was like,
Awful.
no, I just, 8s is okay. 8s is
Broomsticks?
all right. It doesn't look like that big of a difference, but it feels like that big
I
of a
don't like
difference.
knitting worsted in 9s. It just feels too much.
I also felt like it would give a little too much. Like, this is coming out really nice where I'm at.
Can
so
I
I think I
touch
made
it?
the right
It looks
choice.
squishy.
It is super squishy. You may touch it. And I like this one. It's a nice color work.
For the record, it is squishy.
Super squishy, right? But yeah, so I'm excited about this one. I am doing a little bit of a modification on the middle of the pattern because I wanted the dragon's horns to be longer, so I fixed it because I thought it just looked too flat. So I changed it a little bit. But I haven't gotten that far yet, so we'll see how that works out. But that is what I am working on now, and it's lots of fun. And then at the end, I get to steek it.
Yikes.
Oh,
So we're going to have fun with that, too.
Oh, Lord.
Lots of fun stuff. This is also part of my matchy make along with Meg now because we changed. I forgot.
I
We
actually
changed
did
our minds.
rose on mine. I'm
Hey!
I'm almost to turning the hem on it. I'm almost to turning the hem. It's just taking forever, and there's 467 stitches per row.
Once
It's
you
like
get
it's
to
a
the
lot.
color work, it's going to be
It's a
awesome.
lot. It's a
but
lot
yeah,
of,
no, I admit when I was the bottom of this was garter and it was only like 300 stitches in garter, and I'm like, oh, it's still taking forever. So I can understand.
Tina?
Well, I think I'm doing the same thing as Meg because Meg's also working on her calliope, so I'm working on a calliope. And she knows the designer, and I don't.
Nice. Meg, what are you guys working on?
It's Calliope by a Space Trico.
That.
Tina,
I
tell
was
me about your
wondering
yarn.
why you were like Meg's also. I'm like, why is she saying it
Because
like
I'm
right
working
now?
on
I
it,
didn't
yeah.
realize you didn't.
No, because
That makes sense.
Because I don't know who the designer is.
Tell me about your yarn.
So I am working my calliope in the colorway Bless with I believe it's
Druid.
Druid. Yeah. I was going through all the classes in my head from D&D.
I know.
And
It's one of them.
I kept wanting to say rogue, but I was like, no, that's a fingering weight. That's wrong. That's wrong. It's Druid DK
I know.
from Critical Hit Dyes, which happens to be at this table.
Meg, tell me about your project.
Good Lord. I am also working. This is my second Calliope. I mentioned before I wanted to make it without the mohair because as luscious as the mohair is, I am a warm being, and it's much. I'm actually knitting this one out of Fiber Spates of Vivacious DK in the colorway Heavenly. I really love this yarn. I really do.
It looks so pretty.
I love
squishy.
the color. It's like an undefinable, like there's some purple, there's some blue, there's
It's
a little
really
bit
cool
of
because
pink.
depending on the light, it does kind of.
It looks
shift.
gray when you just look at it head on, but then when you shift it, it actually does change. There's even like a little bit of peach in there. It's a really cool color.
It's like
Opalescent.
Yeah, no, it is almost. And I'm like knitting this, and I'm like, this would look really good with a mohair, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't need two sweaters that are stifling. Yeah, I just don't.
I also did not do a mohair.
God,
'cause-
yeah, I tell you, the fabric of the sweater is so nice, but then you put it on, and you're like, and that's enough of that. And I'm done with the collar. I'm doing the raglan increases now. This is like my portable project because I'm not doing the same one as her, but I'm also doing a color work to be steeked, and that's not really portable. It's just massive. So it's my portable project.
For now.
It's the one I take to gymnastics, and nobody talks to me because they're like, look at that weirdo sitting there knitting. What are you working on?
I am still working on the Arachne Shawl by Claire Slade or Verily Knits. I am using Plies and Hellhound's Penny in Flower Moon and Nightmares. Thank you.
It's a good combo.
It is a good combo. It's orange and black.
Yeah.
And that is my matchy make along for the matchy make along with my partner Tina, who is doing black and orange instead of orange and black.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Because it's spooky.
It is spooky. It's gonna be good, and I'm really enjoying the knit, even though I'm not enjoying it often. It's still good. Be sure to check out our website, pardonmystash.com, for more information as well as pictures regarding our current projects, patterns, and yarns. Welcome to this week's topic. This week, we're going to get a little controversial up in here.
Ooh.
We're going to press some buttons.
And spooky, I guess, because that's what somebody just
You're setting the ambiance. Thank you.
No problem.
We're going to talk about pattern and design ethics.
That's right. Get your pitchforks out.
You know when you're on Ravelry and you see some patterns and they look really similar?
Yes, I have seen that. And it is quite interesting seeing two patterns looking very similar to each other. You wonder if they may be inspired or something.
Well, is it inspiration or is it that it's blatant? Like, do you think it's intentional? And how do you feel about it?
I think one of the issues is like if you look for a Stitch Bible, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, or a Stitch book, there are only so many.
Yeah.
It is actually really hard to make up a new Stitch pattern that has never been used before.
So many ways to stitch a stitch.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I do not believe you can copyright. And I'm sure that someone will tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you can copyright a stitch. I don't think you can do that. You can copyright a colorwork pattern.
Sometimes you can loophole and copyright the name of a stitch, but then
Right.
someone else can just
Change the
stitch it
name.
and change the
And
name.
you can and some lace patterns are copyrighted. Like you can't pirate those.
It's murky at best.
But
Yeah.
it's I don't know how you can take a stitch out of, say, like the Vogue knitting, whatever the hell it is. I have it downstairs, but God, if I know the name, make a pattern from a bunch of those cobbled together and then say, these are mine.
Yeah.
You did not come up with those stitches. Right. You put them together. You made the pattern.
Guys, people can't make the notes on a piano. What they make is an arrangement. Those can be
That's a
different.
good point.
that's
that's actually a good analogy.
fair point.
Yeah. You can't steal a note.
Knitting has
Yeah.
been around for so long.
Right.
And crafting and crochet and like so many different textile arts have been around for so long. Can you really say that anything is really original anymore?
Well, I don't know though, because like let's just use for example, like just because it's super well known, the Elizabeth Zimmerman baby surprise jacket. It's basically, if you're not familiar with it, it's you knit a piece of what looks like really weird origami, and then you fold it up and you put a little seam in it, and it makes a cute little baby jacket. Nobody can make that same thing and then say, well, this is original. I made this. Everybody knows who made that. Everybody knows that sweater, that exact pattern.
But that's a pattern.
Right. But isn't that what we're kind of talking about to an extent? Like, can you say, if nothing is new, does that mean that everything is up for grabs? Or are there things that we have to say, like we have to acknowledge this designer made this and we can't pirate it?
So I like to think of my seed dot beanie. I literally called it the seed dot beanie because it's the seed stitch and it's the dot stitch. And those were pulled from a Bible, right? So the copyright, there is a copyright on there. But the copyright is not for the seed and the dot stitch. The copyright is my arrangement of the notes and the math so that you can produce the same item that I create in the photos. So, and that's how I feel about copyright on any of those things, including the sweater that you just mentioned. If it comes out the same exact way, in the same exact directions, like that are written in the same exact way, yeah, I think that's copying.
That's piracy.
That's piracy.
Yeah, if
absolutely.
it's copy paste, but
But
then you
if-
also run
yeah.
into the coincidental of someone else who has never seen your work is like, oh man, I like these two stitches together, and there's only so many ways you can math up a beanie.
Correct, but it would be written differently.
Exactly,
Right.
but then you
That's
would
the
expect.
difference. It would. There's no. It's not even. It's absolutely expected. There's no way that it would be written the same.
Yes.
It might have similar directions. So like you might have to do a similar knit one, purl one, ribbing, or the seed stitch where you knit one, purl one, and then you purl one, knit one. Like whatever. Like you may have those similar directions. But the design of the pattern itself, the way the PDF is laid out, if it's accessible or not, like there's so many, the photos, the colors, the like everything.
Well, the base yarn.
The yarns that you're using, the gauges,
like-
the needles, like all of that, like would be different no matter. There's so many infinite different possibilities of putting those items together. There's no way, unless you've seen it before, that it would be exactly the same. It
agree
could be
with that.
similar. It could be similar, but it wouldn't be exactly the same. So, and I think that's where it gets murky. Because,
Yeah.
you know, then it turns into, okay, well, which one was published first?
Right.
You know, but then you get into, well, the issue of techniques, patterns, and designs that weren't really written down because they're so well known. They're so well thought out.
Right.
You know, for example, my Very Vital beanie is free. Why is it free? Because there is no possible way that my way of thinking of making a simple stockinette beanie is unique. There's just absolutely no way that there isn't somebody out there that has also figured that out. Because I know for a fact there is some grandma who used to make stockinette beanies for their grandkids and is not using a pattern, just figured the math out just like I did. So that pattern is just, I figured the math out for you. Here you go. And I honestly did that for myself because I kept doing it for myself and I was like, I forget. I
Tired
don't
of
wanna
doing
do
the math every time.
Exactly. So I wrote it down for myself and I was like, well, I'm not going to, why would I charge for this? This doesn't make any sense. So I saw recently a pattern get called out and it was literally chain stitch and then you put it together and you make a bracelet. Like that was the pattern. And they were charging $6 for it.
Oh, yikes.
Wait, Jess's face.
Wow. I mean, guys, do a YouTube tutorial. You can make those bracelets, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean,
wow.
yeah, it's like,
wow.
So like, but like, is it wrong? Is it like not ethically like sound? Sure.
I was
Is it
gonna say,
like
I don't think it's-
illegal? No.
I judge the person for doing it, and I kind of side eye anyone who's paying $6 for that.
So can I play devil's advocate?
Yes.
Here, really quick. So here's the thing, and I to an extent I agree. Like I don't like the idea of somebody slapping a price on something that they didn't invent, doesn't belong to them. But on the flip side, I remember my early days of knitting and having, first off, no confidence in myself to be able to figure out a complicated pattern, and absolutely no confidence in myself to wing it in any way, shape, or form. I would have loved, as I'm sitting there ticking the box of only free patterns on Ravelry, I would have loved some patterns that were more than just like, the simple stockinette to be free. But I also acknowledge that, like, to an extent, like, you did put work into grading that beanie, into making sure that the numbers worked. So to an extent, I can see why somebody who's like, yes, I'm making something it is very simple. I don't own this, but I did put the work in to check my math, and I am providing you with a service that you apparently require enough to want to pay for. Does that make me unethical? I don't know if it does.
So I would say in that sense, no, it doesn't make you unethical. The unethics about it is, I think, taking advantage of the newbies. Because you're right, as a newbie, you have no idea. You wouldn't say, you would not know that, hey, this, I'm going to go back to my beanie. The stockinette beanie is a very, very typical pattern and is a very, very typical design that has been made 100 ways to Sunday. So no, you wouldn't know that because you're new to the craft and you would have no idea. So do I think that other people who sell a stockinette beanie for a price are unethical? No. I don't, because I agree with you about, like, you know, you have to put I put work into the grading and stuff like that. There was time in that. Is there a sense of like duty? Maybe is the question, as a veteran, you know, somebody who's been doing this for decades or more,
to pave the way for
the
new
noobs.
Yeah.
The noobs. Come on now, it's the noobs.
I don't know.
To say, hey, like, you know, we need to make options for things that are insanely
simple,
repeatable or simple or something that's going to help them elevate their own skills. Because, like, I find a stockinette beanie, you learn a lot of different skills with a stockinette
Right,
beanie.
you do.
Increases, decreases, ribbing, working in the round. There's like a lot of different things that you can learn inside of that little beanie that really, it seems inconsequential, but when you're new to knitting, it does teaches you a lot.
Checking some boxes.
Yes. So like that, I think maybe that it's maybe less of an ethics question.
I told you at the start of
You
this,
know?
I have very conflicted feelings because I can definitely see it on both sides. When I say I'm playing devil's advocate, like, I'm not even sure as I'm sitting here which side I'm on.
So
I
here,
don't know if there is a side.
But I think, right. But I think also there is the whole, I don't think there's a problem with putting a price on something that you graded and you put together. I am definitely going to side eye you if you then turn around and somebody who does the same thing and you try to say, well, they stole that from me.
Yes.
If you're taking a simple
okay.
stockinette beanie. I think that's pretty universally like, what is wrong with you? Unless, again, they took your pattern, took your name off it, slapped their name on it, and put it online without, you know, actually
oh yeah, no, those
doing
pictures
anything
were
different.
using the pictures you use, and they like cut out your watermark. It's the top half of the hat, so they don't see
But
you're the one
just-
wearing it.
I don't know. I kind of look at it more like, and we've all done things like paid more money for convenience. I have a pretty terrible problem with Grubhub. Like, for example, I could go pick that up, but I'd rather somebody pick it up for me. Like, so, you know, some days it's like, yeah, I could sit down and I could math out doing a stockinette beanie, but you know what? I don't feel like doing it. And if I want to pay somebody money to do it for me, I don't know if that's taking advantage, I guess. I don't know. This is why I'm torn. Like,
So here's where it's all a matter of, okay, so like using the crochet chain bracelet as an example. If it is literally like you pay $6, because you don't see any of these patterns until you pay it. So you pay $6 and it's like, okay, chain until it'll fit around your wrist and then bind it off and sew it together. No. No. Now, if you pay for $6 for this, it's like, okay, here's how you do a chain stitch. Now, if you measure your wrist, if your wrist is like 6 inches, you're going to want
If
to
it's
chain
more
stitch
legit, yes.
this many
So if
stitches.
it's actually more of a tutorial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, if it's
These
just
are
like,
the
okay,
basic
chain stitch till it
mechanics
fits your
of-
hand.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to use again my patterns as an example. And the reason why I'm doing this because I know my patterns, right?
Fair.
So my very vital, I don't know about this wristlet thing.
Yeah,
I have no,
think
I just
$6
saw it
is
and I went, wait, what? But even I know how to do that. But for the high vis cowl, right? It's a brioche cowl.
Yeah.
I don't teach you how to brioche in that. And that's why it's free.
and that's why it's free.
I'm
Right.
not saying this is how you bark and this is how you burp.
Yeah.
There is like an
This
extent of you
is-
should know how to do
You know
this
what?
before you do
you
this.
can
Gotcha.
look
Or
look up bark
it up.
and burp,
But
but I'm
you-
not going to teach it for you.
And
I thought you were
Extend.
making those words up. I legitimately had
Bark-
no idea. No,
bark-
I've
No,
never
yeah,
done
no,
brioche.
those
I had no idea
Literally-
what that was.
no, it's like
I thought
it-
you were just being weird.
It's brioche knit and brioche pearl is so they
Oh.
it's BRK and BRP, so it's bark and burp.
I had no idea.
So-
I've never tried it.
But
That's
to an
funny.
extent, you still did do the math for how high it is and how wide it is. So,
Yeah.
like, if you did want to charge an amount for that, that would make sense. Now, I might side eye you if you're like, yeah, $20 for this pattern. I might be like, Tina, what? Like,
Jess, this was an exclusive
what?
Louis Vuitton.
Listen, it's a Louis Vuitton. It's the tape roll bracelet for $5,000
from his
that I
neon season, because remember, it's
I
the high
have been.
vis.
Have
it's
you
the
seen
neon.
that? Speaking of, that was cracking me up. That
So-
someone
What?
wearing a Scotch tape bracelet, and I'm like, I've been doing that since I started working at the store. Like, why aren't I getting 10 grand for this bracelet?
Because
I
you
can-
didn't do it like
I can
you
buy
didn't sell it.
through Hubert for $50, guys. I could get a whole 6-pack of them. We could all be like top of the line fashionistas over here.
It's the same reason why Kanye West can charge like $200 for an undershirt.
But you know,
You know?
what? Luxury brands is actually a really good example of the same kind of, okay,
thing, yeah.
what is your personal ethos? Like, where is your personal ethics? And that's kind of what is right and wrong, because everybody's is different. Everybody's is different. For me, I'm going to go pick up the food. For you, you don't want to pick up
No,
the
I'm
food.
a lazy jerk.
You don't want to pick up the food. Me, I would go pick up the food.
I'm a
'cause
lazy
I
jerk.
would I want my $4. I just,
I'll-
I want my,
Hey,
I'm very cheap.
Listen,
But cheap supersedes lazy.
it really depends. It just
You
depends.
know what?
On the day.
If it's a Saturday night and the kid is like not feeling
fair.
it, I don't
That is
feel like
fair.
putting her in the car. And
but I think that's why it kind of that's why it's murky, because your definition and my definition, Andrea's and we all have a kind of a slightly different take on what we think is right, quote unquote, or wrong.
People are going
know?
to pay for what they think has value for them.
Correct.
Right, exactly. And for someone that's like, I really don't feel like doing the math, I'll spend the $4 to get this pattern. You know, that's worth it to them. Now, to Jess's comment about bait and switch patterns. Unfortunately, I have not seen too many of these on Ravelry, or where they don't tell you until you buy it. Like, they don't give you certain parameters until you buy the pattern. And I don't mean things like the pattern, like the stitches itself, but like when they don't list in the thing, like, these are the techniques you should know before you do this, or
much yarn
this
you
is a
need.
top down sweater instead of a bottom up, or you're going to need X amount of yardage. Like,
Didn't you, Jess, buy a pattern and it was just the color chart? It didn't even give you
Yes.
how to do the
Yes.
mitten?
Yeah,
Because
no,
it's like
was.
that.
Yep.
That I feel
Yeah,
like that's bait and switch.
that I find
And
I find
I had
unethical.
to just sort of, I guess this is what I'm doing for the cuff. I guess it needs a cuff somewhere.
well, a
that-
cuff, a
that's-
thumb,
like-
a decrease.
Because
Like,
it should have just
something-
been
Yeah,
like,
just like, this is where you put the thumb. I'm like, I guess I'm doing it this way. Like,
because I feel like that should have been, I'm selling you a color work chart.
right.
Yes,
I'm
And
not
you can
selling-
put this
fair.
on anything. You can make a
Correct.
scarf with it. You can make a hat.
that
but
would have been fair.
That to market that as this is a mitten pattern. That's
not even a gusset,
That's
guys.
unethical. And I mean, that's one of the things I really like about the Ravelry, like the categories that you can put in.
Yeah.
When you go to do a pattern, like, you can say, hey, this has bobbles, or this has stranded color work or steeking or whatever. But those are the kind of things that you should put up front before you sell a pattern.
What are the elements in the pattern?
Right. What should you be expected to know before you do this? What's the difficulty level?
Or need even, like, because sometimes you'll get the pattern, you think you have all of it, and this one's minor, but it's like, then you go into it and it's like, oh, P.S. to cast on, you actually need this size needle. We only told you about this other size needle before you bought it, so now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, now I gotta go find this needle. Again, that's a minor inconvenience, but just something to be like, maybe, like, know what you're putting in there.
I know designers that I won't call out right now that won't put the stitches, the type of stitches they're using, because they're afraid if they put it in the summary, I put mine in the summary. There's a list at the bottom, all the stitch types I use in the pattern, so that if you don't know something or it's not something you want to do, you can skip it. You like, okay, I'm not going to do this. It just says like, oh, there's knit togethers and noops and there's never noops, but whatever.
Yeah,
But there could be.
I think
there
that's
are
pretty, that's smart.
There are
Yeah.
If I got a
designers.
pattern and they didn't tell me there was a noop to be prepared for. I'm really mad. Okay, I at least want to know.
No, but there are designers that won't do it because they feel like that will allow you to steal
To
their
sit
work.
down and do this, no, like that is so much work.
Oh, there's a noop. Let me
Matt.
look at this tiny
I
picture.
am a lazy. Listen,
on.
listen. I can't do 5th grade math. Like that's a confession right here. I am not mathing out how to do your pattern just so I don't have to pay the $6 to download it.
Hold on.
That is not a thing I'm gonna do.
I need to get into my persona.
Oh God.
Let me flick my hair real quick.
Flicker.
So like Meg, you don't understand. Like I am a fantastic designer and everybody wants to steal my work. So I don't want to let everybody know what's going on.
I like this is me. Like if there's ever an issue where there's some sort of math in a pattern, I just whine at Jess until she maths it for me because I don't do that. I like this is not my forte. I can't do it. There is no way I'm reverse engineering anything. And you don't need to be like have my math caliber or lack thereof to just be like that is so much work. Patterns are not. I don't mean to say they're not horrifically expensive, but they're not horrifically expensive. They're not.
They're way underpriced compared to
Well,
other crafts.
Compared to other crafts, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just don't. But I guess there's also a part of me that's like, man, you want to do all that work? Like, I shine on you, crazy diamond. Like, go ahead.
Like
That's a lot of work. I don't know why
feel
you would
like-
ever want to put in that much work.
I feel like I don't know, unless somebody like physically stole like my PDF design layout, I'm really not gonna care. Like if you want to make if you want to make the dot seed beanie and like it's essentially the beanie I made, but like I don't know, they're flipped or something, and then like you have your own like pattern layout and stuff. Like I literally don't care.
I can
don't know if that
certainly
would-
see. So one of the things, and this is maybe a whole other question for you guys, but one of the most common ones I see are people that they want to make a sweater. They don't want to do the trouble of grading, so they buy or they take a colorwork sweater pattern. They copy the same stitch counts. They figure out a colorwork that fits in the same count, and they market it as their own. Is that piracy?
Oh, that's kind of lame. I don't know if that's piracy, but that's because it'd be really hard to prove. Yeah, I think it would be hard to prove.
Right.
But
I think it has something more to say that you're not creating a new sweater. You're just creating a new chart.
Right. Well, and it's also like you let somebody else do the hard work of grading and testing and especially if it comes in multiple sizes.
Oh, you mean buying somebody else's pattern?
Yes. Taking an existing sweater pattern,
One that you did not.
one that
yourself
you
do.
yourself. No. If you want to slap different charts in there, by all means, like that's your sweater. I'm talking about like people who take a sweater pattern
Like
that
someone-
exists,
yeah.
Oh.
and you just take it and you find or you create a chart that fits in those same numbers, and then boom, pattern's done. You don't have to grade it. You don't have to even really test it. You can just market it.
that's lame.
I
I think that's a little shady.
I don't like that
I don't like it either.
because you're basically taking half of somebody else's work.
Right.
You know?
And that's the heavy load.
Yeah.
Like, and not, this is not to denigrate like making color patterns. They're a lot of fun, like to try to play around with color charts and stuff. That's a lot of fun. That's the fun part
Yeah.
of making
Yeah.
a colorwork sweater. The crappy part is doing all the grading and the stitch counts and the different weights and, so on and so forth.
and
And I feel like that's kind of taking the cheap and dirty way out.
I feel like I'm getting kind of snobbish when it comes to sweater patterns too, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like so the Calliope doesn't bother me because it's free, so I don't care. But like, for example, if I'm going to pay for a sweater pattern at this point, you better give me darts. You better give me German short rows. You better give me an ability to adjust the waist, the shoulder, the bust, all custom. Like, I am not paying for it unless you have legitimately went through and given me a lot of freaking options, because I have bought way too many patterns at this point for a garment where all they change is the bust, and they don't consider your cup size, they don't consider like your waist, they don't consider your arms, and then like you make this thing and yeah, it fits your chest great, but like I can't get my arms through it because I have excess skin, or I can't, like my waist, like it's blooming in my waist because I have a tinier waist than my bust, or like it's just like I'm a little snobby when it comes to sweater patterns at this point, and I think it's honestly because I've tested a few now. I liked some of the ones I tested, keyword. And I just feel like at this point, it's like almost like, not saying that like other sweater patterns should be free, but I'm not paying like Boko bucks.
Choice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my personal choice.
choice.
I am not going to pay Boko bucks. And when I say Boko bucks, I mean like over $10 for a sweater pattern that doesn't have an extensive amount of work done to it.
Well, yeah, because if you're spending the time and the money and the energy to make yourself custom clothes,
Yeah.
like you want them to custom fit.
And I think honestly, it's because I'm getting bougie with my own patterns. So, and I'm not even doing garments. I'm doing accessories. And if I can make enough options in my accessories, I feel like you can do it with other things too. Like, take the time. And if you're not going to take the time, price it accordingly. Like, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to take the time. You don't have to make it. I don't think you don't have to make it size inclusive. And I know that's a terrible, like, oh, come after me. I will support every size inclusive pattern that I see. I think it's really important. But if somebody doesn't want to do it, that is their choice. I hope they price it that way. And I hope they deal with the fact that there's people that are not going to buy it because it's not size inclusive. But it's, again, every designer has their own choice of how they're going to put out that design and that pattern, and then you choose as a consumer based on how they're presenting. Okay, like this, I'm going to buy from this person because they do all this extra stuff. It is size inclusive. It is this. It is that. Or I know this person's just going to give me a chart for my mittens and like nothing else. So I'm not going to buy any further patterns, or, like whatever. Like, I think it's,
Well, and I think to an extent you need to own that
yeah,
as well. We've gotten as dyers, we've had some feedback that people wish we would offer more non-superwash. It's not our forte.
I don't like that.
It's something that we have tried. We do have two non-superwash options. We don't enjoy it. Like, we've tried it. We really struggle with it. It's definitely not our forte. And we don't hide behind that. We've been very open with this is not something we enjoy doing. There are so many wonderful yarn dyers that do that. And we do not, if that is what you are looking for, like, man, I can give you a list of people that I absolutely love, that I would 100% support. But I'm not going to sit here and cry and be like, oh, we lost these people, like they don't want to shop from us because we don't use enough non-superwash. It's like, that's our choice.
They don't like that we use acid dyes. It's like, that's fine
and
too.
That's fair. That's a preference.
Fair. Yep. So, but it is. We're not going to be like, well, that's awful. You should like acid. And it's like, no, you don't have to.
People are allowed to have preferences,
Exactly.
but you don't have to cater to them.
Exactly.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like, I don't have to cater, but I also don't have the right to complain.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's the ticket.
Yeah.
That's the ticket.
We have made a decision, and you have made a decision, and that's fine. But then it's own that choice.
Yeah.
Own the decision that you have made.
Yep.
Because you don't get to tell the rest of the world how they have to behave. You can only choose how you behave.
And I think that gets back to the whole, like, is it ethical? Is it not? Is it whatever? I think we've established what illegal is, which is basically just stealing and
straight
putting
up
your name on it. Just straight up plagiarism. But like, in terms of being ethical or not, you're right. It's at that point, you're going to do what you're going to do. And based on your own ethos, what is, the answer is going to be based on what's important to you.
You have no right to tell other people what should be
No.
important to them.
No.
Unless they're legitimately plagiarizing your stuff.
Listen, if you don't,
But again, if
if you
someone's
don't see
making
your
a
head
t-shirt
cut off,
and you're also making a t-shirt, guys, t-shirts
t-shirt.
existed,
It's a
okay?
t-shirt.
Like, t-shirts are older than everybody now.
No, and I think there is something also to be said for like color work motifs, or if somebody chooses a leaf motif
oh god, the
and
leaves.
you have a leaf motif. I mean,
So
there
many
are
leaves.
if I put leaf motif into Ravelry, I'm going to get 10,000 patterns. Like,
you say
it's
leaf
I think
motif
that there's
the
leaf
colors
motif.
of the wind.
but I mean, like, I think maybe it's like, and also take a breather. And I think this is something that I have struggled with a lot, is take a breath, think. And one of the things that I tell my kids, because I teach politics and that gets real contentious at times, is try to remember, or try to at least go into everything not assuming the worst out of the person that you feel a problem with. Try to go in with imagining the best of intentions. They didn't plagiarize. Unless your head
really
is literally
freaking
cropped
obvious.
off. But like, yeah, it's like, okay, so maybe they also had the idea to do a leaf motif sweater. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're plagiarizing. And I mean, granted, if you get pushback and they're like, hell yeah, I did steal it, like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, then you can be upset about it. But again, guys, knitting is so old and it's been around for so long.
There's only so many ways that you
Right.
can put stitches together.
There's so much that isn't, and I really do feel like going into every interaction elbows up, ready to fight, and assuming that everyone out there is about to steal your product. It's just, I don't know. I think that's going to cause more grief than it's going to heal.
I feel like most people don't care enough.
I feel like it serves to cause a
steal.
lot of isolation, too.
If you're going to go as far as to steal, I mean, if you want my personal advice, I think if you're going to be a thief, be a good thief, Like, let's look at it from the thief's point of view, okay?
My D&D character really is listening to this right now.
Okay, all right, listen, Rhea.
I am
No, I'm
Tuned in.
I'm actually being serious, and I'm saying if you're going to be a thief, be a good thief. And that what I mean by that is if you're going to go through with, okay, I'm going to buy this pattern, I'm going to like be lazy, I'm not going to do any of this work, then shoot, the work you should put in is to make it look like you did it.
Right?
Like, do the extra
Shift and increase. Change a word somewhere.
Like, come on. Like, if you're gonna be
Take
lazy,
somebody else's picture, even if it doesn't make sense, and throw it in.
if you're gonna be lazy in the stealing, okay, and not do the work there, you should do the work
So
and making it not look. It's
So-
just like when people
coaching
take.
future thieves.
It's just like when people take ChatGPT to write an essay for school. Ready? Meg's gonna love this. And then you take the essay and you're like, okay, I'm not just gonna copy paste it from ChatGPT. I'm gonna like go in and like change some words and like do this thing.
I'm not going to feel bad about telling this story because it's about a college student. She's an adult, so I
Okay,
don't feel
go.
bad. My favorite ever plagiarism story. It's my favorite. I was teaching college and I asked my kids to write an essay about literally anything, like to do with American history. Like they could pick any topic and they had to connect it to American identity. Like, how did this help us become a country and form an identity? Somebody wrote theirs on the Boston Tea Party.
I love this story.
It's a great story, and she definitely plagiarized it, and I could tell because you can tell, especially when you've had a student all semester.
aren't
But she
your
did
words.
that ingenious thing that kids do where they think they're being really slick. And unfortunately, ChatGPT, like they don't have to do this anymore because I can't just take a line and put it in Google and there pops up the article.
Yeah.
What she did was she took an article off Google and she strategically changed words, but the word that she changed was tea. And she changed it to Boston Beverage Party through the entire essay. The entire essay was the Boston Beverage Party, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
The BBP, guys. The BBP.
That was my favorite, and it was
Scandal.
Oh my
the
god!
beverages that they threw.
And it literally took me like 5 minutes of sitting there and looking at it to be like, "Oh my god, that's what she means by this." Like, what on
You're
earth?
just sitting there like, what is she talking? What beverage party?
I was really confused. But yeah, like that's, but I think honestly, I was thinking about that before when we were talking about like, notes and stitches, but it's the same with writing in that unless you're Shakespeare, you're not making up words. But if you take an entire sentence or an entire paragraph that somebody else wrote and you don't credit it, we all, I hope, accept that is theft.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That is dishonest. It's not your work. So wouldn't that apply to crafting as well?
Hold on. Let me put an asterisk on my whole segment back there.
your
So my
thieving
asterisk. Yeah, this is going to be misquoted, and then people are going to be like, she's a thief. No. So here's my asterisk is that entire segment was a joke, and you really shouldn't thieve from people. I hope you understood the sarcasm, everybody. But welcome to the show.
Oh my God.
A++.
Oh God.
No, I don't support thievery. I'm just saying if you're going to be lazy, Dan. Or Dan.
Be less lazy.
Why did I
in your-
say Dan?
Yeah, Dan. Who's Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
I think it is one of those things like with conscience of if it doesn't feel good, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
I agree with
You
that.
know, do what you do with your craft.
That this doesn't apply to sociopaths, by the way.
I know,
Just wanted to
but
clarify
still.
'cause they have no feelings.
But if there is something in the back of your head telling you this is not right, you should probably listen to that,
Yeah.
to the little voice. I'm just saying.
Things these days are not unique in the knitting world.
Correct.
Rarely.
Very rarely are things unique in the knitting world today. You can't copyright your stitches, but you can copyright your patterns.
Yes.
And if you see a pattern and you like it, you should pay somebody for it if they put the work in for it, and that's what they're asking for.
You should give them what they want, which if free is what they want, free is what they get.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And you shouldn't steal.
Don't be a thief.
If it feels wrong, it probably is wrong.
I agree. That's it for this week's topic. For additional content and opportunities to connect with us, the cast, check out our website at pardonmystash.com. Be sure to tune in next time for more laughs, love, and llamas at Pardon My Stash.